Hello, Luke Nation. Welcome to this episode of the Bo and Luke Show. I'm your co-host, Bo Brabo, and I'm joined in studio by our rockstar dynamic co-host, Luke Kerrigan. And we have a special guest with us. Happens to be our sponsor. Happens to be a repeat guest. We always like that because we learned so much the first time around, Luke, that having them back, we can just expand upon and go deeper on all of the stuff that they taught us and taught the listeners the first time around. So Edge Leadership Academy, their founder, David Kitchen, leadership consultant, keynote speaker, performance coach, author, fellow podcaster, all of those great things. Back in the studio with us today. We're so excited because we're going to go hard. We're going to go down the court. We're going to dunk it. We're going to score a touchdown. We're going to hit a home run. We're going to do all those things. We're going to score a goal, right? Whatever. Today we're winning, and we're winning on leadership development. And Coach Kitch, welcome back. We're so excited to have you. Yeah, we're gonna give you a layup, and it's gonna be a layup because you're so good at this for you, right? And we were kind of talking before the show how we wanted to approach leadership development, and we were thinking of the analogy of people have raw talent, right? But that raw talent is only going to get you so far. So even if you have some natural leadership abilities, you were a leader on the schoolyard, gathering all the kids to play the game, that was you. There might be some raw talent there that you grew up with, that you learned, through school, from your parents, those influences. But in time, we got to find a way to refine that talent, get it coached, get training, get professional development, personal development, so that you can build that raw talent into something really, really special. So we're going to give you the floor. Give us your top three. Give us all your good stuff, because I think we're ready.
Yeah, man. So when you were talking right there, like, immediately my mind went to something that we get wrong as we get older that I don't understand. Because when we're younger, we understand that leadership is exactly what you talked about, right? It's gathering the kids up. There's a process behind it. Like, there's things that go into it. And then as we get older, we start to think about like the Braveheart scene, right? We start to think about like the guy with his face painted, or the sales meeting where they got everybody pounded like Leo did in Wolf of Wall Street. Like, we think of moments, and it's like, I don't know when that transition happens, but it's so backwards, because that's not leadership, right? Those are moments. Those are emotional responses. But what's really the key behind it is that those emotional responses are gained through a set of skills, and they're gained through a process. And if it's a process, then we know it can be repeated. And if it can be repeated, then that means that we can teach it, right? So I think that's the key behind all of that, is understanding that leadership really is a set of skills, exactly like you said. And then taking that a step further and saying, okay, just because it's a process doesn't mean it's a one size fits all process. Doesn't mean that everybody is going to lead the same way, right? So when we're looking to develop those leaders within our teams, we have to look at, okay, what are their strengths and weaknesses? And then how do we build a leadership persona and a leadership style around that allows them to double down on those strengths and really highlight those things, right? And so it takes a level of self-awareness. It takes a level of organizational awareness to be able to KYP, right? Know your personnel. Like, you got to know who's on your bench and who's on your team, and how do we get the most out of them, and then build it into a long-term process where we're building skills, right? So when I say that, what I think about is like our performance highway, or the route to performance that we talk about, which is leadership, culture, habits, results. Right? Like, if you reverse engineer that in any organization or any setting, it always comes out the same. So for me, when I think about that, I'm like, okay, if we know that we want the results, why do we skip the first step and try and go and say, we're going to do all these things for culture, we're going to do all these things for our internal habits, but we're not going to do anything for the leadership, when the leadership is the one that sets that culture, right? Without culture, without leaders, there is no culture. Your leaders are dictating to your team what is allowed, what is tolerated, how we interact with each other. Everything rolls downhill right from there. And so once you have a leader that understands that, and you have a leader that's been taught those things, they can set the standard of acceptable behaviors. And then your culture can reinforce those behaviors. And then that shows up in how your people act on a daily basis, internally and externally. And then ultimately your results are dictated by those first three things. It has nothing to do with your widget that you're selling. It has to do with 1, 2, and 3, right? And so I think for organizations to overlook the development piece is a huge misjudgment and a huge miss on their part, because you don't know who's sitting on your bench that's ready and able to step into that role. Because a lot of times you look at who ends up in a leadership role within an organization, and it's Joe the salesman that had the highest quarter for 3 quarters in a row, and so we his natural progression is into sales manager. It's a different skill set. It's a
Yep,
completely different skill
it
set.
is.
And what training are we providing? How are we looking at, are we asking Joe, do you even want to lead people? Because we're asking somebody, when you take Joe, the sales manager or the salesman, and you put him into Joe, the sales manager, you're now asking somebody who has excelled as an individual to kill off the individualistic nature that made them successful and now show up as a collectivist.
Yeah.
How does that make any sense with no training behind it? When instead, what we could do is make it into a process and say, okay, Joe, here's the things that make you great as an individual. Here's how they would show up in a collective nature, right? And part of that is getting people clear on their character. And so that's why when you say the top 3 things, it's one, understanding that leadership's not moments, it's a process, which goes to where we're at now. 2, then would be helping your people get clear on their character, helping your people get clear on who they are, what their vision, mission, and values are, and how that's going to show up within your organization. Because ultimately, leadership on an oversimplification level is being someone worth following, going somewhere worth going for a reason that matters. If you don't take the time to get clear on those 3 things, how can you ever lead in an organization? And so we have to ask our people within our organization, like if it's, again, Joe, the sales manager, Joe, what's important to you? What's your ultimate vision in life? What do you want? Right. And then that tells us a lot about the type of leader that Joe could or may not be. And it tells you whether he's a good fit. And so you say, what is your ultimate vision in life? Right. And so I'll use my own example just within my business. My ultimate vision for me personally is to leave a legacy that my family is proud of. And I say that because it's deeply tied to me. I never met my biological father. I never had the opportunity to be able to sit down with my family and look at a photo album and say, man, I'm proud that guy was part of our family. Man, he really set us up he taught these things, right? Or he brought these things to our family. And so when I look at my business is a reflection of that. The way that I lead within my business is a reflection of my vision as a man. So if we're not helping our people within our organization get clear on who they are, how do we expect them to lead and then be able to marry it to our organization's vision, right? Because my business's vision is different than my vision as a man. My business's vision is to arm as many people as possible with the skills that it takes to lead and win in life. That's different than leaving a legacy, right? So you have to know what your vision is. So we have to train people on that, leading themselves first. And within that, that'll then dictate how they show up as a leader within our organization. So you have your vision at the top, which is what you ultimately want. Then you say to that person, okay, what's your daily mission? How are you going to show up on a daily basis that if you do this thing over and over and over long enough, it becomes statistically unlikely for you not to reach your vision? Like it becomes hard to fail. And so again, going back to my example, I say, okay, I want to leave a legacy for my family to be proud of. My business's vision is that we want to arm as many people as possible with the skills to lead and win in business and life. That means my daily mission has to be other centered, right? My success is now dictated by other people. My legacy is dictated by other people. And so that's how you get that collectivist to come out of an individualist, right? And so when I look at my mission, I say, okay, what can I do on a daily basis that if I do it every day, it's unlikely that I'll fail. It's to bring out the best version in everyone that I come in contact with. It's to inspire greatness in the people around me. If I show up like that as a leader, I'll ultimately leave a legacy through those people. I'll leave that impact, right? So that's the second piece. So you now have people that are clear on their vision and their mission. Well, then the last piece is their values. And we always try and impart company values on people. And I think it's a mistake, because your values as a person need to be intertwined with your experiences, your belief system, your family, where you want to go, your vision, all those things. So when I look at my values, I say, okay, what are the things that I can use that will keep me safe as I travel this mountain of leadership, as I go up this peak? Because along that peak, as we all know, there's dead bodies of people that tried to do something special and couldn't make it. There's little arms reaching out from the side of the trail trying to grab you by the ankle and pull you back down in the form of limiting beliefs, people you should have distanced yourself from, unhealthy relationships, whatever. There's also, and this is a big problem for leaders, there's also shiny object syndrome. There's a lot of mirages on the way up that hill, which may be cutting a corner to get the biggest sales quarter you've ever had, or it may be merging or acquiring another business that isn't a corporate fit. It may be making an unethical decision that you think nobody will ever find out about. But all these mirages are showing up on your way up this mountain trying to get to your vision. And if you don't have a set of values to keep you safe in that storm, you become the type of leader that nobody wants to follow. Because as soon as you make one mistake, people are watching. It's a 24/7 job, right? And so you have to have these values. And so you have to help people get clear on that. So this is where HR goes wrong. Because what do we say? So maybe we are one of those forward-thinking companies that say we're going to help our people figure out their core values. And I worked for one of these organizations, and they had me come in, and I took this personality test that took me 3 hours to take, and I got bored by the end of it because it was the same question phrased 65 different ways. And then they handed me a little sheet of paper with a couple shades of blue and a number on it. And they're like, this is who you are. And then you're supposed to put that on your desk, and it's supposed to tell everybody else how to interact with you. And it's like, that makes no sense, right? Because again, your values are something that you put in action every single day. So instead, what we should be doing when we're having these conversations, when we're trying to develop these leaders, is we should be asking them, what are the things that are non-negotiable in your life? What are the things that you fight for? Like if somebody came into your life and said, Bo, you're no longer an entrepreneur, you're no longer a podcast host, you're no longer this, what are the things that you would do that if you did them and you led with those things would get you back to where you are or even further along, right? And so again, using my own example, I say, well, number one, I'd be honest with people. That's what's gotten me this far in life. I say it in the first couple interactions that I have with people, whether it's a business meeting, a social meeting, whatever. If I see a future in that relationship, I sit down and right away, I'll look them in the eye and say, I'll never lie to you. And then I just pause and I let it sit for a second. I let the gravity of that statement sit, right? Then I say, okay, I'm caring. I genuinely care about people. I want to see people win, right? I'm driven and I'm committed to growth. If I do those 4 things and I lead with those every single day, I'll be able to get back on track and I'll be able to avoid all the traps on the way up the mountain because it tells me how I need to show up. So when I have to have a hard conversation with somebody on my team, yes, I have to say it because it brings me closer to my vision. My vision is a legacy. My mission is to inspire the best version of them. So that means I have to have that hard conversation, but I'm caring. So that means I have to have that conversation with a level of empathy, right? So it builds my leadership toolbox and it tells me what I need to get better at. And so we have to help our people be able to sit down and get clear on who they are and what they want in life, right? So number one takeaway for leadership is that it's a process. It's not a moment. Number 2 is you need to know who you are and you have to be someone worth following that's going somewhere worth going for a reason that matters. And then the third takeaway that I would give you that I think is probably second most important is the reality that leadership has hard truths attached to it, right? Like we glorify leadership and we say that, oh, it's this, it's that, it's something, it's this special thing and it's going to be rainbows and sunshines and everyone's going to love you. And like, it's not, it's a choice and it's a hard choice. And there's plenty of people who have no desire to lead that may be qualified, but once they see what the true price is, they don't want that title. They don't want that responsibility. And if you as a manager don't have those conversations up front with your people, it makes you look tone deaf to the rest of the organization because now you're looking and you're saying, oh, they don't even know that this dude has no desire to lead people. They don't even know that Tom, the salesman who's been killing it, is actually a jerk and the rest of the team doesn't like him. Right? Like you have to be clear about that. And so you have to have these hard truth conversations where you say to them, number one, are you prepared for the loneliness that you're going to feel as a leader? Are you prepared to understand that you no longer can care if people like you? I shouldn't say that. You no longer can prioritize people liking you. It now has to be about love and respect because those 2 things you can earn. So I tell leaders all the time, as soon as they step into the role, you got to stop chasing like, because like is dictated by somebody else's emotional maturity. Like is dictated by, you could be selling pizza, they might just be hungry for Chinese food. That's got nothing to do with you. So if you get hung up on like, you're in trouble, right? So number one, are you prepared for that loneliness? Number two, are you prepared for the reality that you won't have it all figured out? None of us step into a role and somebody hands us a manual of every problem we're going to run into, and it's all in there. We put our hand on the Bible and all of a sudden we figure it all out. Like, it doesn't work that way. So are you prepared for that uncomfortable moment that is coming, where everybody in a boardroom is looking at you and you don't have the answer? Are you prepared to make a decision in that moment? And are you prepared to sit in that uncomfortable feeling of the fact that the only way you get better at making decisions is by making decisions? Like, that's the second hard truth that you have to have. The third hard truth is, are you okay with the fact that it's a 24/7 job? Like, everybody else has the opportunity to shut it off when they go home. The minute you shut it off is the minute you slip up, and is the minute that everybody looks at you and they say, oh, it's not a standard, it's a suggestion now. And if it's a suggestion, that means I can ignore it. So it's a 24/7 job. We used to say all the time, I learned this as a high school football player, the logo never comes off. Like, our coach used to say all the time, if you get in trouble, the headline is not going to say David Kitchen did this. It's going to say Berwick football player did this, right? If you get in trouble as a leader in an organization, it's not going to say Joe did this. It's going to see XYZ corporation manager did this. So you have to understand that that's a 24/7 job. So the reminder that I give people is just act like the mic is always on and act like the camera is always on you. That's what I tell people. You want to learn what it's like to be a leader? Imagine there's a film crew following you 24/7. That's what it's like. That's what it's like. And then the last hard truth is just realizing, again, talking with people with those individualistic kind of attributes that make them great, is realizing that the best leaders are the ones that are nowhere to be found when the team wins and are the first ones to step up to the microphone when the team loses. Are you ready for that? Are you ready to have that feeling? Like, are you ready to understand that the higher you go in the organization, the less it's about you? Your job is now to serve others. So again, there's a million other things that we need to work on as a society when we're building leaders. But if I could start, I would start with understanding that leadership is a process, not a moment. Understanding that you have to know who you are first, and then understanding that there's a price tag that comes with it. And then from there, we can implement those longstanding leadership development conversations. So with that, thanks for coming to my TED Talk.
Yeah, that's exactly what we wanted. You delivered. What? I knew you would. You brought the heat. Cut. That's a wrap. It's over. End of episode.
So, Bo, this is going to take me 6 hours to re-listen to this 20-minute episode, because I'm going to be pressing pause 3,000 times in the middle. Like, this was...
Yeah.
I don't even know where to start dissecting this, Coach. This is amazing. I feel so fulfilled right now, and I have so many ideas swirling around my head.
Right. I think you're right. And maybe we don't have to dissect it, right? In this moment, Luke.
Yeah.
Maybe it is that. Maybe it's re-listening to it numerous times, pulling pieces apart, have you back, Coach, and develop some type of leadership series, picking apart, hard truth number 1, 2, and 3, and like diving deeper into those and recommending how folks deal with that. Yeah. So, man, that was super, super good. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to bombard you with questions, because I really want, and Luke, I hope you agree. I really want listeners to like, just take what you said, right? And really, listen to it. Listen to it 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times. Take notes, write it down. Reach out to. How do people get in touch with you, Coach?
Yeah, man. This is the stuff. Yeah, right. Going off what you said, like, this is the stuff that we do on a daily basis. Like, this is why we travel around the country and get the opportunity to teach this stuff. We're available online, edgeleadershipacademy.com, for booking requests, or if you just want to talk, you want to do a consultation, those things are all available online. I'm also on all social media. I talk a lot about leadership, mindset, the things that we talked about today, at Coach D Kitch on all of those. And then we have our podcast as well. We're getting ready to roll out season 3 of the Built Not Born podcast. So that's available on all podcast platforms. Season 1 and 2 are already released. So yeah, man, that's where people can get in touch with me. At the end of the day, I'm super passionate about this stuff. I was fortunate to be around a lot of great leaders. And so I've seen the impact that they can have on people's lives. And so if I can go out there, and I just posted this today on my social media, over these next couple of weeks that I'm on the road, if I can impact one leader to step up and be more authentic and be themselves and lead scars and all, then I did my job and this whole tour was worth it, right? And that's our goal every single day.
Excellent. Luke, any parting thoughts?
I'm going to go back and listen to this. Like I said, I'm going to press pause so many times. You have no idea. And Bo, I can't wait till you process this episode through the AI and tell it to summarize like the point. It's going to break artificial intelligence. It's going to be, I'm pumped for it actually. Like I'm going to
me too.
Send it to Coach so we can be like, dang, that was actually pretty, now it's all on paper. We should publish that.
Yeah.
It'll be wonderful.
Yeah, for sure. I see it now.
Closing thoughts, just Coach, I mean, as if I would expect anything different. Thanks for enlightening me yet again on this day and getting me fired up. My only drawback or only negative thing is I wish that I had done this first thing in the morning, because now it's like almost 4 o'clock and I'm all fired up and I'm going to have dinner with the wife and kids shortly. And they're going to have to hear about all this. So
that's all right, brother. Hey, we're leaders in our house and leaders in our community as well. The world needs it. The arena doesn't end at the workplace, brother.
Darn right.
That's right.
Darn right.
Absolutely. This has just been amazing. Thank you so much. Bone Luke Nation, you have been listening to David Kitchen, Coach Kitch, founder of Edge Leadership Academy. Make sure you go check it out. And with that, that's